Hi again, everybody. Welcome to the Bricks and Bleachers podcast. All things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. Cubs remain stuck in a funk. Is there light at the end of the tunnel? We'll try to answer that. Cubs are getting healthy again. We'll talk about the impact of returning stars, and the biggest series of the season is just ahead. Plus news and notes from around Major League Baseball. Cubs have 40 games to go with a record of 69 and 53 heading into play on Sunday. Do the quick math. Cubs go 500 the rest of the way, and they finish at 89 wins. I throw that out there as the Cubs have been playing 500 ball for a while now, really 2 months where they've simply been breaking even. Cubs are 24 and 25 since June 18. That was a rain date where the Cubs and Brewers were rained out at Wrigley Field, and the Cubs and Brewers have been moving in opposite directions ever since. More on that shortly as we preview the upcoming Cubs-Brewers series this week at Wrigley Field. Cubs won yesterday 3-2 over the Pittsburgh Pirates, first Cubs comeback win since July 2nd. Shota Imanaga turned in 7 solid innings on the mound, yet the Cubs trailed 2-1 in the 8th. They scored 2 in the bottom of the 8th. They held on in the 9th to secure the win. Pirates won the series opener on Friday 3-2, so that sets up a deciding game of the series this afternoon. Cubs bats have been ice cold for quite some time. The last 3 weeks, Cubs have scored 5 or more runs just 4 times. 57 runs scored over their last 17 games. That's about 3 1/3 per game. Amazingly, they've given up the same amount of runs in that stretch. And if you give up just 57 runs over 17 games, you're probably going to have a winning record. But that's not the case, as the Cubs are 7 and 10 during that stretch. Which brings us to the question, is this Cubs team cooked or just in a bad stretch? The thing with baseball, no one goes wire to wire without a downturn or two, but this team has been down for quite some time. Whether you're looking at stats and see the decline, or you're watching nearly every game, there's no debate. This is not the same team that dominated much of the first half of the season. There's no power. There's no speed. Few runners getting on base. Almost no success with runners in scoring position. As one who watches probably more than the average fan, I'm saying this team is highly frustrating. It puts me in the same mindset as like the late season 2021 Cubs, or maybe even going farther back to like the 2014 Chicago Cubs. The difference from this team and those teams is the amount of talent on the 2025 Cubs roster. Far more talented this roster is than those. But I think there are 2 compounding factors here. One, it seems every Cubs team since, 2018, there's been a long, sustained offensive drought every single year. And that has been the case even as players come and go, hitting coaches come and go, changes at the manager spot have taken place. But yet we've seen these prolonged downturns with the Cubs offense every year for the last 7 or 8 years. That is not normal among top teams. Another thing that makes this stretch worse is the ridiculous tear the Brewers have been on. Going back to that rain date, June 18, Cubs led the Brewers then by 6.5 games. Now the Cubs trail by 9 games. Even going back just to the 1st of August, Brewers led by 1 game in the division. Now it's a 9-game gap. Brewers are doing things you just don't see. Multiple win streaks of more than 10 games. Right now, it's a 14-game win streak for the Brewers. So the Cubs have had an almost 16-game swing with the Brewers over the last 2 months. And I think maybe just the 69 Cubs collapse was worse. I believe that was a 15-game swing over the Mets throughout the final 6 or 7 weeks of that season. This and that, news and notes from around Major League Baseball. Angels completed their season sweep of the Dodgers this week. It's only the 5th time in history where a team has swept its season series against a defending World Series champion, or at least in seasons where the teams met a minimum of 6 games. The Brewers also did that this year against the Dodgers. Other 3 occurrences all happened in 1998 against the Marlins. Marlins won the World Series in 97, then had a big fire sale right after. Scary news from Philadelphia. Zach Wheeler reported some shoulder heaviness after his outing Friday night. Tests yesterday uncovered a blood clot near his shoulder. Team has placed him on the IL. No return date expected. Thankfully for Wheeler, this was discovered quickly. It's that time of the year where top prospects are making their debut all across the league. The Orioles have two of them debuting this weekend. Dylan Beavers got the call and debuted yesterday against the Astros, and we've found out this morning they've got another one lined up for this afternoon. Samuel Basallo will make his debut for the O's later today. Back to the Cubs, and they've got a top prospect who's made a debut too. We'll mention that in a moment. Rubber game of this weekend series with the Pirates lined up this afternoon. It's Javier Assad and Carmen Mlodzinski, the starters. Assad took the loss on Tuesday against Toronto in his season debut, giving up 4 runs in 4 innings. Mlodzinski is 2-7 on the year, but this will be his third appearance of the season against the Cubs. He made a start against the Cubs in late April. He went 4 innings and then had a 2-inning relief appearance against Chicago in the middle of June. PCA with a nice game on Friday, getting on base 4 times. Kyle Tucker with 2 hits yesterday. Perhaps that can spark a turnaround for both of these guys because it's been a pretty bad stretch for each of them. And not just only those 2 guys, but I'm pointing those 2 out specifically. Tucker has not homered in 4 weeks. In fact, he's only got 1 home run since the 1st of July. PCA, meanwhile, with 16 strikeouts in August and just 6 hits. His OPS has fallen 50 points during the month of August. Mentioned this early in the season. PCA with just a ridiculously high chase rate, yet earlier the year he was finding ways to put the ball in play. That's not been the case recently. He's still chasing, but he's not putting the ball in play. Nico Horner and Matt Shaw have been the ones propping up this Cubs offense recently. But again, the Cubs offense has been sputtering along. This week, the series of the season, Cubs and Brewers, a 5-game series over 4 days at Wrigley Field. It begins tomorrow with a doubleheader. Cubs will welcome back Jameson Taillon in this series, perhaps as early as tomorrow. Javier Assad is back too. I mentioned that a moment ago. Cubs can go to a 6-man rotation or be creative with innings management with their starters moving forward. Cubs starters have been tops in the majors post-All-Star break in a number of statistical categories, but the Brewers rotation has been top-notch throughout the year, and they've been bolstered recently as well. Freddie Peralta has been great throughout the year. You've had Jacob Mizorowski, who's really been good since being called up in early June, and Brandon Woodruff is back from injury recently as well. A guy no one had heard of a few months ago, Quinn Priester, is now 11-2 on the year. We saw the Cubs' debut of Owen Casey on Thursday in Toronto. He started that game, has not played since, and he's not in the lineup today either. I'm guessing he'll get a start in one of the games of the doubleheader tomorrow. And depending upon how today goes, if the Cubs take 4 of 5 in this series against the Brewers, Cubs could trim the lead down to 5, and a 5-game deficit on August 22nd isn't great, but that is certainly possible to overcome. Brewers have been playing well. There's no debate about that, but it seems they've had a lot of luck as well. And we've mentioned it before, winning does lead to luck, but opposing teams seem to be finding creative ways of losing games when you go back game to game. You see a lot of really strange oddities popping up. I do see the Brewers' pace slowing down at some point. Usually you don't want to peak in early August, and it seems that the Brewers have been doing that. But the 9-game hole in mid-August for the Cubs is not good. As you look at the division, we're probably 90% or higher talking about the Cubs making October as a wild card. And that's disappointing because there's a big difference in skipping the wild card round or being stuck at a best-of-3 series to open October against a team that may be squeaking into October with lots of momentum. That's why the trade deadline moves were so greatly needed, and the acquisition of Michael Soroka simply was not the answer, and I said that even before his getting injured after just 2 innings in a Cubs uniform. So 40 games to go. Cubs a distant second in the National League Central, but a lot could happen in the next few days, taking on the Milwaukee Brewers in a 5-game series. Holding on to the first wild card spot for now. Padres in the second spot right behind them. And then the Mets have been in a free fall. They are grasping to that third wild card spot, 4.5 games back of the Chicago Cubs. Add your thoughts anytime on X, Bricks Bleachers, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. All things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. This is the Bricks and Bleachers podcast.